There's something undeniably compelling about a well-worn photograph or a record with light surface noise. They feel like fragments of real life, not just images or sounds. Roland Barthes called this the punctum. That jagged detail in a photo that grabs your eye and won't let go. Often because it's flawed or aged. It's not just beauty. We're reacting to its history in material form. The scratch on the vinyl, the faded corner of an old snapshot. These are not accidents, but traces of use, memory made tangible, mistaking damage for depth. Analog media developed entire hierarchies around degradation. Film stock could be premiere or budget grade, paper yellowed, vinyl warped. These weren't flaws, they were languages of their own. The imperfection became a kind of fingerprint, a signature of authenticity. We built meaning into the deterioration itself. But as digital media emerged, it didn't inherit this logic of wear and tear. It was pristine by default, sterile in its perfection. So we began to simulate the old, where authenticity is not experienced, but manufactured, calculated into every pixel of our digital landscape. What was once an organic signifier, the crack in the photo, the scratch on the record, has become algorithmic. It's no longer about how something feels or looks used. It's about making it look that way. We have built machines to make fakes feel real and call them authentic. This is a new kind of nostalgia, not for times past, but for the aesthetic of times past, reassembled in the lab.
The earliest computers were not just machines of calculation, but bold experiments in logic and control.
In digital audio workstations, a button labeled Humanize transforms stereo MIDI sequences into something that sounds like it was played by human hands, with slight delays and dynamic shifts. This isn't imperfection, it's engineered effect. It mimics the soul of performance without any performer involved. We've outsourced emotion to algorithms, not just in music, but across media. The next frontier is handwriting. AI now forges cursive loops and jagged script, not to write letters, but to make spam feel like a love note. These tools are less about function than expectation. We demand the illusion of artisanal effort because we've forgotten what real craft feels like.
The computer built into the modern digital sound synthesizer makes it possible for the musician to compose pieces quickly. By using a light pen, the composer is telling the computer what pre-recorded sounds he wants to use. He can easily add or subtract instruments, pitches, and rhythms.
Every technology comes with a set of quirks, bugs, artifacts, side effects that are at first seen as flaws and later rebranded as charm. The linotype machine, for example, was prized in the early days of printing, not just for its efficiency, but also for the occasional misalignment of characters, a mechanical stutter that made text feel alive. It wasn't until these irregularities were catalogued and replicated digitally that they became aesthetic choices rather than technical errors. What we now call retro, a CBS report highlighted an AI-generated film made for 2,000 in 2 months. It's not just about efficiency, it's about control and the illusion of it. The director didn't have to worry about lighting, framing, or performance, because every flaw could be algorithmically erased. But instead of calling it perfect, we call it stylized, because perfection is sterile. What we crave now isn't truth, but the look of sincerity. We want our machines to feel human by being just a little bit broken. Let's pause here and listen to a typesetter from the early 20th century describe how the occasional jam in his machine was not just accepted, but appreciated. It meant things were happening, that something real was being made, not calculated into existence. Now, as we outsource our feelings to software presets called vintage or film grain, we're not remembering the past. We're manufacturing it through code. The more we automate authenticity, the more we forget what it even
Machines which set type up in line, cast from molten metal, first introduced at the close of the last century, are now the most widely used.
We once trusted a weathered leather jacket or a well-thumbed book to tell us a story. These objects bore witness to lives lived. But now, we can simulate that same patina with just a few lines of code. AI tools polish raw media until it wears the skin of authenticity like a costume. The result is not craft, but performance effect without experience, emotion without memories. We've moved from human touch to algorithmic sincerity, and in doing so, we've erased what made those objects meaningful in the first place.